what I learned on some of my like angel investor and investor learnings was that, like you said, if you've had previous success or you've got domain expertise or you've been through a very rigorous process that almost like is a signal, like, yes, this person, they got accepted to Google, so they must be okay. They got into Stanford. And what we're saying is that historically, those people are more likely to be white men. Exactly. I mean, that is one of the problems, isn't it? And one of the problems that I see as well is, you know, where you've got these angel groups that are like exited founders only or operators only. And of course, the majority of those exited founders are going to be white, middle-aged, middle-class men.
AI is transforming businesses, leadership, and decision-making. But the question is, can it ever truly understand people? We automate workflows, optimize performance, and scale faster than ever before. But at the heart of every great company is still human connection, community, and leadership. So as AI becomes more embedded in how we work, how do we make sure we're building companies that aren't just efficient, but deeply human? I'm Cien, and on The Human and the Machine, we explore the intersection of AI, business, and human potential, breaking down how automation and intelligence are shaping the way we work, lead, and connect. Today's guest is Emmie Faust, a people expert, community builder, and exited founder who understands exactly what it takes to grow a movement. As a leader of Female Founders Rise, she's built a 9,000-strong community of female and non-binary founders, helping them navigate funding, business growth, and visibility. She's seen firsthand how people come together to create change, and how technology can either amplify that connection or get in the way. Welcome to the show, Emmie.
Thanks so much, Cien. And I love that little introduction you did. You nailed it. Did you use AI for that, or did you do it yourself?
I did use AI to help me improve it. So I basically just type what I say, you know, how I think it, and then I let AI help me refine myself so I can present myself better.
Love it. That was very good.
Amazing. So let's get onto it. So the first question I have for you, Emmie, is you've built Female Founders Rise into a movement, not just a network. What role do you see AI playing in community building, and where does it fall short?
Oh my gosh, you could have prepared me for these questions. I never prepare for questions. So if you had prepared me, I wouldn't have looked anyway, because I like to do what comes into my brain. But I would say AI is something that I am definitely trying to get to grips with, and I definitely don't know all of the possibilities and amazing opportunities that you do. So when it comes to community building, I do feel that a lot of that is just human connection. I see that there's lots of ways you can use AI to help your business. But for me, community and connection like actually needs that human touch. So I don't know.
No, you're definitely right. Like, I run an AI powered business and I tell people to scale AI. This is my recommendation. But without the networking that that I've participated in with Female Founders Rise, without me having put myself in front of your community in that masterclass that we did in July, I wouldn't have gained the traction that I did last year. So I think you're definitely onto something. And with that, like with your experience, and also you talk a lot about this, like about the power of storytelling and connection through storytelling. But a lot of founders are still struggling with this, whether that's in pitching to investors or building their personal brand. With AI now generating so much content, do you think we're at risk of losing the real human connection in business?
I'm not a fan of AI generated content. We would, like you were saying at the beginning of this podcast, I love AI to do things like help me give me ideas for content, help. Quite often, like when I write the newsletter, for example, I realize I'm like waffling and I'll like put it in and I'll be like, make this more concise. And it comes back and it's brilliant. I really don't like the AI type posts where you can literally tell that someone's just put something in and probably, I mean, I'm sure if you give it all the right prompts and you can get something that does sound quite like you. I just feel like people want to connect and read stories like from the heart. And it feels like you lose that authentic connection when it's AI content. So I would say use it for ideas, use it for research, use it to help you better condense, something that's waffly. But I think I can really tell when someone writes a post that's kind of generated by AI. And I do use AI myself for like creating content. But I very much am aware that, and it will depend. Like, so today's post, like I wrote that in the gym and it was literally just like a splurge of what's in my brain. So there's no AI in there. But like, say I'm trying to create like an educational post or some educational content, around, being a founder or founder burnout or something like that. And I'm creating a carousel. I would definitely use AI, but I think it's a kind of a fine line, isn't it? I don't know. What do you think?
No, absolutely. And I'm really interested about kind of, the power of human connection through networking and genuine relationships being built. I've seen this in your network, and I've seen at Female Founders Rise, women supporting other women through that connection. And I just don't think that AI can replicate that. And I actually just want to dive deeper into the whole connection and genuine relationship building element of what you do. How do you see, post COVID, I feel like the world has changed and a lot of people move to more like building relationships online. But with the events that you're doing, how effective has it been for people to connect genuinely and build relationships that way?
Well, it's amazing. So basically, I believe in both. Yeah. So I believe there's a time and a place to like connect on LinkedIn and I've made loads of amazing friends on LinkedIn. I mean, we probably met through LinkedIn. I've built the whole community through LinkedIn and then through word of mouth and through members and through doing events. But I'd say a lot of it's come from LinkedIn. So I believe there's a place for that. And I also know that not everyone can get to in-person events. Some, childcare, money, education, there's all those things. But I do think like prioritizing meeting in person is important as well. We had a big International Women's Day event. We had like 180 women there and it was amazing. And I kind of looked up and I just saw everyone chatting and sharing notes and connecting. And it was just like, when you meet in person, there was so much energy in the room. And someone came up to me and she said, "Oh, I've only just joined Female Founders Rise. This is my second event, but I just want to let you know I've met my new best friend at the last event, and I've already met her for lunch twice, and we get on like a house on fire. And it's such a lonely journey being a founder, and to have found that person means the world to me." And I thought that for me is like impact. That's like results that I want. We've also seen. So just this week, I got an email from someone who met an investor at one of our events. I was just actually telling you before we joined this that one of the founders I invested in, she came to an in-person event. We were chatting. I introduced her to an investor. She's since got investment off that person. So, I think meeting in person builds that deeper relationship that maybe is sometimes hard to find online. I think there's a place for both. And it's not just about getting investment. It's about getting investment. It's about making friends. It's about collaborating. So lots of people have told me that they've met someone in the loo who's then become a client of theirs. So definitely a few of those. Me and Debbie always laugh and say all the good conversations happen when you go to the loo. And then we've had people set up businesses together. So definitely, I wonder if it's a relaxed environment. You're sitting down like eye to eye and you can feel that like physical connection and you can go a bit deeper than maybe online. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people will have met through, say, one of our community WhatsApps or through Circle platform or through something that we're doing online. And then when they meet in person, it kind of just solidifies that relationship. So yeah, I love a mix of the two.
No, I agree. And you've really paved the way in allowing, especially women, understand that landscape. You must be sick of talking about how we're underfunded. It's difficult for us to find the right investors. And speaking about that, I think AI is positioning itself as a potential tool to remove some of those biases. Funds are talking about this, but biases in these systems still exist. How do you think founders should navigate a world where AI is making more decisions about who gets opportunities, specifically for us women who are fighting the bias from a kind of like non-AI perspective, but then also now with systems in place, potentially biases existing within these systems as well?
So you're saying that AI has biases as well? That's
Correct.
Bringing into the thing. It's very hard. I mean, like sometimes I kind of bash my head against the brick wall thinking like gosh, are things ever going to change? We just did this big piece of research, and like 70% of female founders, their biggest issue is getting fundraising. I'm not sure what that percentage is for men. It might be the same, but you know, a lot of what came through was discrimination, biases, unconscious bias, conscious bias. And I think that is something that we all struggle with. You know, that is the reality. It's a barrier in entrepreneurship. That was a big part of our study. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. It was around a third of people in this very representative sample of about 400 that we spoke to. So you know, I don't know, you can't, I think changing, like systemic change and what goes, you know, that's like a long-term thing that hopefully will change over time. How you can work with those biases with AI, like I really don't know. But what I would just always say is if you're trying to get funding and you're trying to get fundraising, you can go down many routes. I think the one that I do like, and obviously it's not necessarily scalable, or not that scalable, is what we're saying, like meeting in person. I think those warm relationships that then help you get in to see people. I wonder, like, there's less AI involved in that, isn't there? I mean, when you say AI could be discriminatory, or are you talking about people like submit their decks, and
Yeah.
how do you see that working?
So there are VCs now who have told me are building tools that would basically use the data that they have before in, you know, like who got funded and who was successful, how much funding they got. Now imagine if these systems are using that historic data. Most of them would be from male founders. Most of what is deemed successful would be from that.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's a self-fulfilling, you know, it's an ongoing thing, because if you've been to Stanford, or if you worked at Google, or if you've done any of these things that give you a tick, because it almost like what I learned on some of my like angel investor and investor learnings was that, like you said, if you've had previous success, or you've got domain expertise, or you've been through a very rigorous process that almost like is a signal, like, yes, this person, they got accepted to Google, so they must be okay. They got into Stanford. And what we're saying is that historically, those people are more likely to be white men. Exactly. I mean, that is one of the problems, isn't it? And one of the problems that I see as well is, you know, where you've got these angel groups that are like exited founders only, or operators only. And of course, the majority of those exited founders are going to be white, middle-aged, middle-class men. And they're then making the decisions about who to invest in. And there's not enough women in those angel groups, because only 14% of female angel investors are women. And then you kind of got this thing happening again. So that's why, like, I love to see, you know, there's an amazing guy called Dees who does a lot of kind of work in that area. And then there's lots of groups like Angel Academy and Alma Angels and people like that who are obviously really supporting funding going to women and focusing on that. But yeah, I totally agree that the system's set up to promote and support and give more credibility, I suppose, to people who've already built a successful business and exited it. And generally that's going to be, you know, not the underrepresented founders. So very hard. I think, you know, there's a lot of work to be done to change it from many sides. And yeah, probably women have to work harder, don't they? Women and underrepresented founders need to work harder to get the money. And it's a hard thing, and it's not great. And I think that's why that I really do believe that these relationships with people who can almost like back you and take you in and support you on that journey, which generally is like a deep relationship that you've had, is definitely a way to go. But look, I don't have the answer. I mean, I'm constantly trying to like work out how to help in this area. And sometimes I feel like, yeah, I don't have those answers. I think one of the things that's come up as well is the sort of preventative questions, isn't it, that female founders get asked, and just to be like aware of that and to be aware of like how you would respond, because research shows that men get asked promotion questions like, oh, how big's this business going to be? It looks like it's going to be massive. Tell us about the growth potential. And women are getting asked like questions like, gosh, you know, you sure you're okay with those numbers? When actually women tend to be more conservative anyway. So women need to like double their numbers and be like much more, you know, more grand, you know, than being, you know, very conservative and realistic like we all are.
But I want to segue a little bit on this because it really resonates with me. And I get two different types of advice. We've got people saying that you shouldn't play the kind of like that victim role. You shouldn't feel frustrated and play the game, which I'm not sure I'm completely aligned with. And then because a part of me thinks that we should be frustrated. We should be angry. because we're not getting it. And playing the game just makes the problem, the kind of like that inherent problem, bigger and acceptable. And I wanted to kind of see if I can get some view on this from you, Emmy. Like, how do we, as female founders who want to build, who want to change the world, look at the world?
It's a really good point, because I think on one side, I'll say, like, let's celebrate all the amazing stuff female founders are doing. Let's not keep telling women they can't get funded, because if you keep telling women they can't get funded, they're going to believe that, and they're not going to just, getting funded is very hard for men and for women. And, anyone building a business is really hard work, and everyone's going to get no's. So it's almost like, if you keep telling women that it's not going to happen, it's almost like, is it going to put them off even doing it? Like, are we telling them, oh, don't try this, it's going to be impossible, you're not going to get the funding? So on one side, I like to kind of talk a lot. I think it's about showcasing women that are doing it and have doing it. And that big campaign, you can't be what you can't see. You've got what it takes to be a female founder, and it is hard, but you've got what it takes. So I think that's important. I think the other thing is, it's also important not to just ignore that it's happening. So on one hand, you've got to just be like, crack on, I'm going to crack on. I'm not going to let all the noise distract me, and I'm not going to believe it, because I need to just get my fundraising done. And on the other hand, like you said, we can't just pretend it's all fine and it's not happening. So it's an interesting balance, and actually it's a really tricky one. And I think it's a tricky one for founders, because you don't want to bite off the potential hand that's going to feed you. So it might not be necessarily the best way to start a conversation. And this is the problem that I've been having as well. So it's like, we can't tarnish everyone with the same brush. But yeah, it's hard. I don't think I've got the right answer, because I am struggling with exactly that at the moment. Do I keep calling out that, like, no one's sponsoring us? Why won't anyone sponsor us? We've got this amazing community. We're doing so much great work. Why does no one want to sponsor Female Founders Rise? Like, do I keep calling that out? But then am I almost like putting off the potential sponsors by, like, basically just being a bit of a pain? It's that it's just a very difficult place to be, wanting to be vocal about it, but also just thinking, I also just need to crack on and do the work and, like, create the change.
Yeah, it is. That is just profound, especially coming from you, because you have created this space where we feel like we can. And knowing that the problem is everywhere. It is darkening, but at the same time, also very motivating to make that change. Now, as a leader who's deeply invested in people, if AI could truly understand human behavior, what's one thing you'd want it to learn from us?
What to do, to then do what? To make positive change?
Yeah.
I think, for me, it all comes back to human connection, and the importance of human connection. And so, like, I see AI as being complementary to humans, and I don't see that they can necessarily learn, like, the really deep, important stuff from us and be able to initiate that. I see, look, I'd probably be totally wrong, but, like, I see AI as being like a help, and I'm probably using only, by the way, 1% of the capabilities, but I see AI as being a tool that sits alongside you and that supports you in your business and personal life. But I don't see that it can ever take away the core part of being, which is friendship, connection, human belonging, the things that kind of make us tick. So I can see that it can improve our lives by helping us in ways, but I don't know if we can teach it anything that it can then come back and teach us better. Does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like that's a weird question. Or maybe I didn't understand the question.
No, you answered it perfectly. I think what the market is missing right now, from my perspective, is that we have every potential to influence how this thing will evolve. And I see that people are unsure about how it's evolving because they're not taking part in influencing what it should be used for. So there's every chance for this tool to be developed as an assistant, as a tool that we can use, that can collaborate with us. So there's no right or wrong answer. Like, we're all in this together and influencing how this thing is evolving, I think.
Yeah.
And you've answered this in many ways. This is my last question. I know you have a hard stop, but I just wanted to rephrase the question and get it straight from you. In the time of intelligent machines, what do you think does it mean to be human?
Yeah. So for me, it's just, I think it's that the feelings, the emotions, the love, the support, the camaraderie, is that the right word? The connection, all of those things you can never get from a machine. Yeah, I could probably ask AI to like give me ideas to help me with my well-being or whatever. And I've heard you can use it as therapy, you know, and get like support. And I'm sure that is helpful. But for me, I feel like talking to another human being, being able to walk next to another human being, being able to touch them, hug them, share a drink with them, exercise with them, you know, like the power in the room when you're doing a yoga class with everyone else. It's like very different to doing a yoga class online or whatever. So there's great things about technology and AI and all those things, but also it will never, ever, for me, take place of that human belonging. And that's like that's our core, isn't it? That's the deep part of what we are. So that can't ever be the soul. It doesn't have a soul, does it, AI?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have a soul, which we do.
Before I wrap up, is there anything you'd like to tell the people listening to the show? And I'm going to add some links in the show notes as well.
Yeah, just, you know, oh God, I got that stuck in my head. Support female founders, female and non-binary, underrepresented founders. We can all do our bit. We can think about diversifying our supply list. We can think about investing in underrepresented founders. We can think about buying from them. I also would say another thing that I think is really important is for founders especially is find your community. It's very lonely. Don't be, you know, once you find your people, life becomes much easier. I think we both know that. I think we've both been in situations where, you know, we've been without it and then we've been in it. I think networking can have a dirty word. It can be a dirty word for some, but actually it's about kind of reframing it and not thinking like, does it work for me? Am I getting something out of it? Am I getting something? Like, what am I giving? Like, what am I taking to this event? How can I help people? And that like really changes the dynamics. And actually what we were talking about before, like Cien, you came in and helped female founders rise with no expectations. And as a result, you've like had loads of traction and grown your business. I think I would just say get networking on LinkedIn, in person, find your community. If you're a female founder or non-binary founder or you know one, come and find us at Female Founders Rise and have an amazing day.
I'm such a proud member of Female Founders Rise, so I do recommend it to everyone who wants to belong.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Human and the Machine. Emmie, thank you so much for bringing your expertise, not just on business, but on what it really means to build something that lasts. For everyone listening, if today's conversation made you think differently about AI, leadership, and the future of human connection in business, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more deep dives into evolving relationship between AI and human potential, hit subscribe and join me next time.